Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Shaw Local Chicago Bears reporter Michael Dwojak, here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar. It is week two. We've got one week two game under our belts here. Green Bay, looking at the score, didn't seem that bad, but looking at that Green Bay against Washington, Joe, not great. I think a lot of Bears fans were like, "Ooh, this is going to look a little bit more tough than we expected it to."
Yeah, that guy who wears number 1, he's pretty good at football, isn't he?
He seems pretty good. There might be a reason why everyone was really interested in him.
Well, and I know there was, who wouldn't want him on your football team? I guess other than Dallas, I guess. But
I guess,
I don't. When people talk about, hey, the Bears aren't ready yet for a guy like Micah Parsons, yeah, you are. Yeah, get him now. Great football players are always welcome, and great football players can turn even mediocre football teams into good football teams. It sure would have been nice to have him here, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And then the stinky part is for Bears fans, now you got to deal with him twice a year for against the dreaded Packers. So tough, but yeah, they certainly look like a Super Bowl contender, don't you think? I sound like a guy on ESPN now. I'm like, overreacting after 1 week in one game, but that's the case.
They definitely did, but we'll worry about Green Bay later on in the year.
Right.
We'll focus on Detroit here, week 2. Bears are traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. Ben Johnson, obviously, coming back to Detroit for the first time since leaving over the offseason. We'll get you all ready for that. Just a quick shout out if you're joining us on the YouTube live stream. Thanks so much. Make sure to give us a like. Get all your comments and their questions. We'll try to answer them as quickly and as much as we can. We're going to do our regular preview stuff. We'll do our matchups to look out for. We'll do our most valuable Bear, of course, and our surprise prediction. But yeah, like I said, the Bears are traveling to Detroit. It's going to be a big game. Let's start things off here, Joe, with the injury report, which has kind of been interesting to me this week. The Bears didn't practice on Wednesday after the short week, but then they did send out an injury report, and then they officially did practice on Thursday. And mixed things in this injury report. DJ Edwards made progress. He's now been limited with that hamstring injury. Jalen Johnson has been full the last couple of days. He told us on Thursday that he's going to play again, or he expects to be playing against the Lions on Sunday. He also told us that he was never going to play in that Monday Night Vikings game. Little injury report, little gamesmanship, as we like to say. These NFL coaches like to treat this type of stuff like state secrets, but. That was kind of interesting. But the big news: Kyler Gordon has still been out with the hamstring injury, and then you got Grady Jarrett out with the knee injury, and those are not good injuries because Kyler obviously really important to your defense. Obviously, Nick McLeod showed that he can play the position fairly well in Kyler's absence, but obviously you want Kyler back in there. And the Grady Jarrett injury is very interesting because we don't know what knee it is. Like he came back from an ACL tear a couple of years ago. Last year, he was his first year coming back from that. We don't know whether that's the same knee, whether it's a different knee, but it's not a good sign to have Grady Jarrett on the other side of 30 dealing with the knee injury this early in the season.
Yeah, it's not, and that's one of your big, off-season acquisitions on the defensive side of the ball. And I like Andrew Billings, but you need depth there. And Jarrett's a guy who I thought really could make a difference if he's healthy. And I just hope that's something long-term. And I hope it's not the knee that you alluded to with the ACL. So that's disturbing. The Jalen Johnson news certainly is encouraging. Again, we'll see come Sunday when the inactives are listed, but that's big to have him back because, as we've said repeatedly, he's your best defensive player. I mean, that's fact. He's got the credentials, at the Pro Bowl, and you need him back. Kyler Gordon, that stinks because he's good too, and he has Pro Bowl skills. So get him on the field, and I think he's another guy who Dennis Allen will use. Like even Matt Eberflus last year used him, to blitz the quarterback. He was really effective at it. He may have been their best blitzer,
Sure.
out of those secondary guys. So it stinks not to have him because, again, you're still trying to, show people you're a good football team. So you need good football players, and he's one of the best on the team.
And Ben Johnson told us that he reappeared on the injury report on Sunday because he came into I think they were doing something at Halas on Sunday because obviously they were playing on Monday night, and he came back and said he had some tightness with the hamstring. He was back on the field the last couple of weeks after dealing with it earlier in training camp, and with these soft tissue injuries, this just seems like something you just got to let it settle. You can't push it. Yep. You can't, rush him back because he's going to be doing this all season long. So I think the Bears' plan probably is just like rest it, give him we'll see what Ben Johnson says today. He said he was hopeful that he could play. We'll see what the decision is. But if I were the Bears at this point, I would just sit him. Don't let this be a lingering thing. Let it completely heal for the next couple of weeks. I think Nick McLeod has shown you that he can play the position fairly well in Kyler Gordon's absence. And I think the sooner you can get Kyler Gordon 100% as opposed to partially healthy, I think that's more important for this defense.
Yeah, I agree. You don't want him to be lingering and all of a sudden you're at week 6 and, he still hasn't played or has played, but he hasn't been good. Then he re-injures it. So it's a marathon, Michael, and not a sprint.
All right. Obviously, the big story of the week has been Caleb Williams kind of talking about, his errant throws, getting into some spurts where just the throws didn't look close at all. And, we talked with Caleb on Wednesday and he talked about how, some of that was footwork. Some of that was just timing, accuracy. We heard from Declan Doyle on Thursday, and he said that one route toward the end of the game where DJ Moore looked open, that DJ wasn't running the right route. So that's why Caleb wasn't looking for him in that particular moment. Like, obviously, Declan did say, like, if you do see the receiver, obviously you want to get it there. But he did give some context into that moment and said, that they weren't on the same page because DJ was supposed to be running a different route. But, Joe, based on what you heard from Caleb and Johnson, Declan Doyle this week, just what were your thoughts about how the Bears kind of addressed, Caleb's performance on Monday?
Well, you're not going to be too critical, and as fans, even if you played the game, you don't know what's going on, how a play was called or what it was designed to most of the time. So I'll take their word, but you also understand they're going to be protective of the situation. No one's going to throw Caleb under the bus, not after one game. But it's still, we saw too much of it last year, and it looked a lot the same, in the season opener Monday night. So we'll see. I mean, we're just going to have to, there were two men. That wasn't the only play. There were other plays where he missed downfield. What's the situation there? Why wasn't he seeing it again? Where were the easy throws? That's the more I thought about this game as the week has gone on here. Like, where were the easy throws? We even saw some of those in the preseason games, where like get guys in stride. That's what I keep wanting to see more of, letting guys catch the ball in stride so we can see the yak. I want to see the yak, the yards after catch. And we need to see a lot more of that come Sunday.
I want to go off of 2 points of that. The first, with the whole DJ thing, it's been interesting ever since Caleb's come into the league, because I feel like, when the Bears drafted Caleb, you're like, oh, he's got DJ. Like, you just gave DJ this big extension. Like, he's going to be such a resource for Caleb in his rookie season. And it never felt like they kind of connected last year. It felt like there were a lot of different moments when they weren't on the same page. And you saw that again on Monday. And I'm just wondering, they were each asked, how do you get, on the same page? And they both said, the standard line of, repetition, working together and all that kind of stuff. But you do have to wonder, like, they've been working together for over a year at this point. And I'm not here to say that it's going to be a perfect product by any means. Like, you're going to miss, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are going to miss some throws. There's going to be some inconsistency sometimes. That happens. But it's been interesting to me, just like over the past year and one game, that Caleb and DJ just haven't been able to build that rapport with each other, it seems like. To give them credit, Caleb did find DJ for 2 big plays on Monday, like wide open. Like he did hit him in stride a couple times, but you just would have thought that DJ would become more of a weapon for Caleb. And it just doesn't seem like for some reason Caleb's looking for him that much.
No, that's a great point. And even last year, toward the end of the season, or as the season progressed anyway, who was his go-to guy? Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen was the guy he had the most faith in and trusted the most, it seemed like. So where's DJ? How are they not on the same page? And at this point, I'm not going to pick sides here, but DJ Moore has the better reputation. DJ Moore's an accomplished player in this league. He's never been to a Pro Bowl only because that position is so stacked. But I really like him, and he's kind of like the forgotten man almost with all the added weapons.
Sure.
But he's still the guy to me. He's still your best wide receiver. No offense to Rome Odunze or any of those guys. But I just wish, because we'll never know. Well, if you can just talk one-on-one with DJ Moore, like when DJ Moore goes home and talks to his wife, or like, what does he say to her? Like, man, I'm telling you, this quarterback, he ain't it. He ain't it. I'd really, or does he say, no, man, you're not, come on, stop this. Wait, no, Caleb's definitely the man. He's better than Tyson Bagent. Come on. I really would love to know what he really thinks. And we won't know, but because that's, if he would say like, no, Caleb's the man. He is. He'll get there. I just don't hear enough of that, other than the cliche stuff, I guess. But I don't know, Michael, because again, they had an entire year. You have an off season, and they still don't seem on the same page. I mean, this should be a deadly combination.
It should be, right? It's just
it's not.
It's just weird that it hasn't really clicked for them. And listen, I know we talked earlier, when we were doing our previews for the year, and we were talking about how Rome likely becomes your number one because he's that X receiver. He's got that prototypical body to that. Like DJ is going to be used a lot. And you kind of saw that in Monday's game. Like you saw him run it a couple of times. You saw him in the screen game. You saw him in the slot. Like they moved him around a lot, but it just has been interesting. It's just interesting that they haven't really connected. Maybe that takes off this week. I don't know. Like obviously, Caleb's learning a new offense. DJ's still in a new offense. So maybe that is part of it too. So no matter how good of a rapport you have with each other, if you're still both learning a new offense, like it can be hard. Like I understand all of that, but it's just interesting to watch how that connection kind of hasn't come together. And it'll be interesting to see, when I feel like you've seen Caleb turn to Rome in that one game. It's just been one game on Monday, but I feel like you've seen Caleb turn to Rome in those scramble drills, right? Like you've looked at him, down the sideline pass. You've been looking for Rome a couple times, even in the preseason. So we'll see how it goes. But that was just an interesting thing that I've kind of noticed, and something that I appreciated Declan Doyle kind of being honest instead of just being like, oh, like whatever, like it's not, we're not worried about that. Like he gave you an honest answer and kind of gave some insight. So I really appreciated that from Declan Doyle. Another thing from Caleb before we start previewing the Lions game was kind of interesting, just kind of looking at the stats, was just he didn't really throw the ball that much down the field. You look at next gen stats, he was 2 of 4 for passes, 20 yards or farther. He really stayed in the middle. That was his happy place, between 0 to 9 yards or 0 to 10 yards down the middle. That's where his touchdown was to Rome Odunze on that one play. But Joe, for me, this was something that we talked about at the beginning of last year, where we talked about, Caleb's got to throw the ball down the field. And, obviously that it takes some time to kind of get into it. And I agree with you. You want to get those short passes going, but eventually you need to get those long passes going as well, because you got playmakers. You got Rome out there. You got Luther Burden, who I know got some looks, not too much looks, but you've got playmakers out there who can stretch the field, and you just got to let it go sometimes. And Caleb kind of said that on Wednesday, where he was like, part of it is the footwork. Part of it is just like, I got to let it rip. Like he acknowledged that. He said, I need to just throw the ball sometimes. And I think we need to see more of that, where if he sees something, he just needs to go for it. And I don't know whether he's scared about the interceptions. I don't know if that's been like a big part of it, where he's kind of like cautious in that regard. But I think Bears fans would much rather him throw an interception here or there, but be more willing to kind of let it rip, as opposed to being cautious and just thinking and docking it, a couple of yards here or there.
Well, when you watch him and then you watch Jaden Daniels, and you watch Jalen Hurts, the other elite quarterbacks, but specifically, like when you watch Jaden Daniels, like, did they get this right? Is this the guy they should have picked? Did they get this wrong? Jaden Daniels throws a really good deep ball.
Yeah.
Really, like, you don't have to throw your 98 mile per hour fastball every time. Paint the corner with the 90 mile per hour changeup. I mean, Caleb, so I think when he rips it, boy, it looks good, right? Like, that's an arm. That's like a Jay Cutler arm. That's the way it should look.
Yeah.
But, like, you don't need to do that every time. He's got to have more finesse. And the deep balls, every time he throws a deep ball, I'm kind of expecting it not to be completed. I'm expecting it to be off. And that you can't win with a quarterback like that. I'm not saying he's done. I'm not, I said 2 weeks ago in our predictions that he's going to be great this year. Not good. He's going to be great. So I'll stick by that. But I want to start seeing it like now. So, and the interceptions, rip it, but, like, you don't always have to rip it. I mean, you could just a nice, 40-yard toss down the sideline. You don't have to throw 95 on, that pass. But we're just missing it. And then I see other guys like Daniels, like, dang, that kid's good. Why isn't our quarterback that good?
Well, to give Caleb credit, I think when he said rip, he is talking about just knowing when to pay. Like he said, there was a moment where he threw, what did he throw? Like Cole, probably 100 mile per hour throw instead of like an easy throw. I think he's meaning more of that. Just like, I need to know what type of pass to throw in certain moments. And he struggled with that, right? Like you saw a couple of times where he's like throwing like the fastball instead of the changeup, like you said. Like he's not lofting it in, he's just like trying to squeeze it in real quick. And that's obviously up to him. So that'll be a big interesting thing to kind of watch there. Rick kind of chiming in. Rick, good to hear from you. The first 4 draft picks in 2025 had 0 effect on game 1. That's a polls problem. Listen, you want to get Loveland involved and Burden involved. Shamar Turner obviously is still coming back from that injury, and Ozzie Trapillo obviously isn't your starter right now, and that's a whole different issue. But for Loveland and Burden, I would kind of give, I don't know, it's one game, right? Like I feel like that's what we kind of talked about. Like Ben Johnson's feeling stuff out. The rookies are feeling some stuff out. Like, to be quite honest, like they still need to earn Ben Johnson's trust. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like, you're going to give the ball to Cole Kmet. You're going to give the ball to Rome Badunze, DJ Moore, OZ, right, over Luther Burden and Colston Loveland at this point. And he found Colston Loveland for a nice pass. But I don't know if I'm going to go that crazy, or not crazy, but just go to that assumption right away that they didn't get involved right away in game 1. You would have liked that. But I think there are other targets, especially for Colston and for Luther, that you kind of got to get involved with. And sometimes I think that's going to happen. Like that's what we're going to see in this offense, where there are just some games where you're not going to see a lot of DJ. You're not going to see a lot of Colston. You're not going to see a lot of Luther. But then there are going to be other games where you are. I think that's the thing about this offense, where every single week different guys are going to step up. And it just happened to, be in the first week that the rookies didn't do much.
Well, I got to tell you, I agree with Rick. I mean,
okay.
I'm again, it's one game. We'll give it time.
Sure.
But when these 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, Colston Loveland, 1 pass. I need to see more of them. I don't care if you didn't draft him the block. Good for him. But you expected him. You called me. You think he's going to be the rookie MVP of the team. I picked Burden. They love Luther. Oh, he's too good to pass up, even though we need other positions. We need running back. We need O-line. He's too good to pass up. Where's he been? Where was he? I need – this is you're not the Chiefs. You're not the Packers. You need to draft guys who come in and make an impact. Trapillo, that's a bad look. We've talked about it before. You think the guy can play left tackle. Now you figure out he can. He's better on the right side. Now you got 2 right tackles. Turner, let's go. I'm sure the kid is hurt. But we need to see more. This is disturbing when you're a bad football team. You've got, you're the team that moved up and to get picks here in the second round to accumulate more or move back to get more picks. Where is it? What do those guys do? And then you look back at last year's draft class with the jury's still on that with Caleb. And I mean, Rome's been good, but we thought he'd be better. I'll be patient. I'm a Chicago sports fan. I'm used to being patient. But man, I mean, is this going to be the whole year? Because this is not like, hey, next year, watch Ozzie and Shamir Turner. They'll be really good. No. Well, of course, Poles will be back because he's signed for the next millennium or whatever it is, that contract he got. But I need to see more. Otherwise, we're looking at a top 10 pick in the draft again. Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And I am interested to see what they do against the Lions and how much they kind of use their different guys. I do think the Colston thing, like we talked about earlier, was, listen, they were just trying to protect Caleb as much as possible. And they used both Cole and Colston. Like, that was a game where you needed to use your tight ends as extra protection. And that was it. And Ben was asked after the game about that. And he said, every game is going to be different and guys are going to be used differently. That game very clearly to me was, we need to protect Caleb as much as possible. We got to give Braxton Jones as much support on the left side. So that's why you saw Cole and Colston bunched together right next to each other, next to that left tackle spot or even the right tackle spot. So, but I agree. You need more production out of them. They aren't first and second round picks are guys who should make an impact on the field right away. They're not guys who develop. They should be guys who make an impact right away. I agree with you guys. All I was just saying is, it's one game. Guys are going to be used differently in each matchup and that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of goes here in week 2. So let's talk about week 2. We've got an interesting matchup here. Ben Johnson, obviously, is coming back. Joe, I didn't know until I read a story yesterday from the Detroit Free Press about and Lions fans have been mad about Ben Johnson leaving Detroit. They've called him Benedict Ben Johnson or whatever like that. There have been other names that I will not repeat on this podcast that people have used, but Detroit Lion fans are pretty mad about this. And I kind of get that if I'm a Lions fan, but he's also like, Ben Johnson's the guy who made your team, right? Like, Dan Campbell has had a great impact on that, but he revitalized that offense. So I get that it hurts that he went to a division rival, but I don't know. He had to do what's right for his family, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, good for him. You'd think every coordinator or line coach or special teams coach, they'd want the opportunity to be a head coach. Maybe not everybody, but certainly look, if the Bears lose Declan Doyle next year to another team, like, that's a good thing. You want that. It's like, hey man, that means he did a good job here. So it's nice to hear they're upset because that means they know they lost a good guy. Like, I don't hear anyone saying, boy, it really stinks that we lost Matt Eberflus now that he's in Dallas. Boy, I'm really upset about that. No one says that. No one was upset after Matt Nagy left here. I know they were head coaches, but no, it's a good thing because otherwise, it's better that than hearing as a Bears fan that, boy, they couldn't wait to get rid of Ben Johnson. He's overrated. It was all Dan Campbell, and this guy thinks he's so smart and he's creative with the play calls. Well, we'll see what he does in Chicago. So that was good news as a Bears fan.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I don't know, like, put yourself in Ben's position. Would you not take a head coaching job and obviously try to I thought Ben stuck around longer than he needed to with the Lions.
Right.
Like, he easily could have gone to the Commanders last year, but he was like, I felt like he was loyal to Detroit, right? Yep. So I don't know. Those are kind of, I had not heard about that. I'm sure that there were some upset fans, but when I saw that story and all the nicknames and like the fact that a reporter felt, like he had to come to Halas Hall and like kind of report on it, I was like, oh, I didn't realize like this was a thing. I thought that I'm sure there were upset people, but I didn't realize that Detroit fans were that much. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's just a small vocal, how it is in today's world, like a small vocal minority. It seems like the majority, but I thought that was interesting. But Joe, let's get into this game. What is your matchup to watch in this week's matchup against the Lions?
Well, I won't pick the obvious one, which is the quarterback against Detroit's defense. I'm going to go with the Bears front line, and their front seven against the running game here, because other than Josh Jacobs, I know Minnesota. I mean, Josh Jacobs is a good football player, but that running game at the end, it was like the Bears. That should have been the Bears running game instead of Minnesota's, where they're picking up key plays and big plays. And Aaron Jones with the long touchdown pass down, in the end zone. So with this dynamic duo here with Jahmyr Gibbs and the ex-Bear David Montgomery, that's really good. And we know how good that offense is, 13 points aside, from the opener against Green Bay. So I really want to see, especially if Grady Jarrett's not playing, that's not good. No Kyler Gordon. Again, big test here because that's Detroit. I mean, you got to run the football, and we haven't done that in Chicago in a long time, but they do. And Ben Johnson is gone, but Gibbs is still there. Montgomery's there. So that can be critical, third and 8, and one of those guys gets the ball and they get a first down. We know, I don't know about you. I mean, you were simply covering when David Montgomery was here, right? Or were you not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good football player. The knock on him was he doesn't have the breakaway speed, and can he really be a featured running back? I think Detroit's he's got a perfect role there in Detroit, which is proven to be the case. So I like him a lot. He's always, we talk about the yak, the yards after contact. He's that guy. He'd be nice to have here now with DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna say that's the one I really will see. Can the Bears hold those guys intact? How much damage will they do, especially controlling the clock? Because again, if they're controlling the clock, can't get the Bears offense down the field, then everything is going to be like, okay, Caleb, you got to get a first down, you got to drive, and that just for him, because he struggles, it seemed like with processing stuff, like maybe it's just that's not good for him. Like last year, where every time it was, again, we talked earlier, other podcasts about they're down 13-0, 17-0. Sure. Now you got to throw, and everything's on a whack now, and you have to get away from your game plan. And so, long answer, but run game, Lions offense versus the Bears front seven.
Yeah, I think that'll be really interesting, especially because, obviously the Lions are getting new offensive linemen in there. Their center is new, their guard is new. Yep. You need to attack that because obviously that's what. Listen, you don't have Micah Parsons on your team, but I do think that the Bears kind of talked about how they saw what the Packers did and are going to maybe try to replicate that. And that's just getting attack the middle of that area, right? Like attack the middle of that zone. Don't let Detroit's running game get going, right? I think that's the biggest thing. That is the bread and butter to that offense. Is the bread and butter to obviously when Ben Johnson was there, it's going to be their bread and butter moving forward, right? If you get their run going, they're going to do really well. So I would agree. And maybe that does include, maybe Shamar Turner getting more involved if Grady Jarrett can't play, right? Like Andrew Billings, he was a big run stopper. He needs to get involved there. But I would agree. They really need to limit them, especially in the middle of that offensive line. They're still trying to figure things out. They're still learning about each other. I think you need to exploit that matchup because if Detroit's able to get their running game going, then things are not going to go well for the Bears on Sunday night. My matchup is kind of going to be nerdy. I'm going with the Bears silent count versus the Ford Field crowd. Good. And I say that because, most of the time when you go on the road, you're obviously going to be in a silent count. It gets pretty loud at that point. But Ben Johnson kind of joked earlier, like he was asked, how do you fix these pre-snap penalties? And he kind of joked and he said, maybe we just go to a silent count and see how that works. But listen, that's going to be huge. If this offense can, for the most part, do well in a silent count, I think that's going to be huge because you saw how much J.J. McCarthy struggled at the beginning of that game on Monday when they went to a silent count and they couldn't really communicate with each other. So if this Bears offense can execute the silent count fairly well and move the ball down the field, I think that's going to be huge because obviously the pre-snap penalties delayed drives on Monday. They really took away strong, good plays. Like there were a lot of different moments where you're just kind of like, man, like they were building momentum and they just broke it there with that holding call or with that false start. So that silent count is going to be huge because if you're committing false starts, if you're not on the same page, like there are going to be a lot of 3 and outs, 5 and outs because you're not going to be able to get it going if you can't run that silent count against that, in that noise, in that environment.
Yeah, no, that's a great call. Because that's been a lot of the talk this week. It was a lot of the talk during the game, the pre-snap penalties, and this whole thing about Caleb being better with his cadence. I think it was Grady Jarrett saying, that by the time after he signed and they did the OTAs, whatever that first camp they did, it is much improved Caleb's cadence in these last few months here, but it's clearly not there yet. And that's, it's easy to pick on Jonah Jackson. I did, others did, because he had 2 of the false starts. And the quarterback has to own a lot of that too. And I don't know, maybe just simplifying it somehow. But that was key because, again, this offense, if it's Josh Allen, I don't worry about them false starting because they can make that up pretty easily. And we're nowhere near that. A lot of teams aren't.
Yeah. There are a few teams that are at his level.
Exactly. So, but it's got to be better, and you can't be having this throughout the season. This can't be like where we're talking about it every week. So, yes, stop that. Maybe the silent count will be just a little easier. We'll make things easier for Caleb, and we'll have fewer guys false starting.
Yeah, it will be interesting, and kind of going minuscule just kind of before we move forward. I think we need to see more from Drew Dahlman and Jonah Jackson, right? Like, I feel like those guys, I don't know what happened in game. It's again, I hate sounding like a broken record and keep saying it's game 1, but you do need the context of that. Like, it's one game, but you do need to see the center and Caleb. You need to see Drew Dahlman and Caleb, be more on the same page. That's going to be huge. And you need Jonah Jackson to kind of show you that he was worth trading for him, right? Like, obviously, I think everyone automatically assumed when they traded for him, oh, you got yourself. I feel like kind of lumped it together with Joe Thuney, and you're like, oh, we got 2 all-pro guards. Well, Joe Thuney's obviously the all-pro Hall of Fame guard. Jonah Jackson has showed you that he can play well, but he needs to kind of show it to you more. And I think he needs to show you consistency, especially going back to Detroit and doing well in that, in that little homecoming that he's got coming on Sunday as well. All right, Joe, what is going to be your surprise prediction from Sunday's game?
Bears win. I don't know why. I have no reason. I really logistically, I don't, but that's the NFL. And as angry as we were as Bears fans about Monday night, that is the fourth quarter, because first 3 quarters, like, yeah, Bears are going to win. Bears are going to win. Wow. And then we know what happened. But this is the NFL, and I don't know how. I don't know to predict like what's going to be better than Monday night, their performance Monday night. I really don't know. But this is the goof. Again, I've told you, Michael, this is why I don't bet, because I would get all the games wrong. All the games that seem like
Vegas would love you.
Oh, man, they would, sucker. I don't know. So somehow they're going to figure it out, and Cairo Santos will kick a 58-yarder. No, he's not going to kick a 58.
Oh, the redemption game for Cairo.
The redemption game.
He's had redemption
that
games
been
before.
My prediction.
He's had redemption games before. I would not be surprised if he did it again. I mean, you're inside a dome. Like, that's a great spot for him.
He'll give everything he's got, and boom, a 31-yard field goal, and the Bears will walk off victorious.
That would be, we'll get into our predictions, obviously, but I would agree that that's a good prediction. I don't know. I don't think many people have the Bears winning this game right now. So I think that's going to be pretty good. My surprise prediction is, I think we're going for an offensive shootout. I think that we are going to see some good offenses together. I think Ben Johnson.
Welcome that.
Ben Johnson is a competitive guy, man. Like I don't think he's like a jerk by any means. I don't think he tries to be a jerk, but I think, man, I think he wants to put it on Detroit, like his former team. Like, he's a competitive dude. Like, he wants to show that he's a head coach in the NFL and that he deserves that, right? And I think at the end of the game, he's going to tell everybody that he loves them. And I think he genuinely does love all those people there. Like, I don't think that's like a shtick or anything like that. But I also know that, man, he's like, if we've learned anything about Ben Johnson, he's competitive as heck. And I think the guys are going to be motivated for him on Sunday. And they're going to be like, yeah, we want to help our coach kind of show that he deserves to be one of the best offensive minds. And everyone's going to be motivated. I think both sides are going to be motivated as heck for this game on Sunday. But Yeah, because of that, I think both sides are actually going to put on a pretty good offensive performance, and I think that we're in for an offensive shootout.
Now, by offensive shootout, do you mean like 38-34, or what's your definition
I
of
think
a
this early in
give
the
me a
year, I'll
score?
probably go into high 20s. Let's go a high 20s game.
Okay.
Maybe someone breaks into the 30s, but both of these teams also didn't have a great offensive week one. So I think we got to put that in hindsight or in context a little bit. But I do think that we're going to see much more than 13 points or what have you from last week.
Yeah, so no Bills Ravens is what you're saying.
I don't think we're getting 42-43 or whatever the score was. I don't.
Well,
maybe we will, but I do think that we're going to see a lot of offense in this game.
well, I'll tell you what, and I think you'll agree with me. If let's say they lose 34-31, Caleb throws for 3 touchdown passes and 320. We'll come away saying, you know what? I know they lost. I know it stinks, but because we've been saying forever, even before Caleb was here, it's about the quarterback. So if he plays well, it's like, man, he was hitting guys in stride. And boy, some of those deep passes, he connected with whoever. And they lose 34-31. I don't know. I think like, wow.
You take that.
I'll take it. Well, the quarterback, maybe he will be good. Maybe he will be great. They'll figure out the defense and get some guys back and whatever. But what do you think?
No, I agree. I think you don't want to start the season 0-2, right? Like, obviously, we know the stats. I think the stats have kind of, been watered down with the expanded playoffs here in the last couple of years. But if you're 0-2, you're not making the playoffs a lot of the times.
No.
It's just the way it is. But I do think that, especially 0-2 in your division, you lose a lot of tiebreakers there. Like, it's not a good start. But I do think that if you see that progress, if you see Caleb throwing it away, the offense is humming, and it just so happens that Detroit is a team that is trying to contend for an NFC championship or trying to get to the Super Bowl. Like, I know Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are out, but a majority of their guys are back. Like, they're still in their window. So that would not be a terrible loss, especially for a Bears team who's still trying to develop with each other. So, yeah, I agree with you. You obviously want to win that game, but I would much rather take a 34-31 loss where Caleb looks like the franchise quarterback, as opposed to like a 13-7 win where your defense is carrying the way. And I think that's what we've been saying about this season, where I'm mostly focused on Caleb proving that he's your franchise quarterback. Playoffs are great. More wins are great. All that is very important, but I am mostly focused on Caleb showing that he looks like your franchise quarterback this year.
Yeah, I think that's the big story, right? A lot of people have said that at the end of the year, the takeaway has to be, do we have the franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams, regardless of one loss record? And if he is the guy, then the one loss record should be respectable, if not good anyway. So, and for the record, by the way, in our Shaw local picks this week that we run in our newspapers, I did pick Detroit, but on this podcast, I'm picking the Bears. So you always got to cover both sides.
You're hedging your bet here.
That's what I always do. So people could say, hey, you called her. I'm always guaranteed to see if I do the opposite on the podcast and in print to say, I told you so.
Rick chiming in, his surprise pick is going to be that there's no pre-snap penalties. That would be a win. That would be a surprise for me, Rick. I'm not going to lie to you. Not that I'm predicting that there's going to be a lot of penalties, but I think that's a good surprise prediction. I like that one, Rick. All right, let's get to our most valuable Bears, guys. Chime in the comments with who you guys think are going to be your most valuable Bears. In week one, I chose Caleb. Joe got DeAndre Swift. I burned my quarterback pick here early in week one, and I won that matchup. Caleb, based on fantasy points, had 24 points. DeAndre Swift had 9 points. So that's a win for me. So I start the season 1-0, but then I do burn my quarterback pick. Joe, since you chose first last week, I'll choose first this week.
Good.
And I'm going to go with, I think Rome is in for a big game. I was tempted to get him last week. And I'm going to go with Rome Odunze this week. I think he showed you with that heck of a catch down the sidelines that he's in for a big week. I think that they're going to use him. They're going to focus on him in this offense a lot. And I think Rome Odunze is a bit in for a big game. I was tempted to go on the defensive side. I was really tempted to go with Jalen Johnson in his first game, just to kind of like say, hey, he's back. He's going to shadow Amon-Ra St. Brown and that sort of stuff. But I still want to see this defense kind of get healthy a little bit. So I'm going to go stay on the offensive side, and I'm going to go with Rome Odunze as my most valuable Bear for this game.
Okay. I really don't have like a strong opinion on this. Since you went offense, I'll go defense. And boy, I want to say Jalen Johnson. I'm going to say Jalen Johnson, and you
All right.
just mentioned him here. I'll go Jalen Johnson. Again, I'm assuming he'll be on Amon-Ra St. Brown most of the game. And now, if he doesn't play, do I get like a like incomplete or do I get like an asterisk if he doesn't play or I'm just like, too bad you lost, Joe. He didn't play.
we've never faced this situation before. We'll talk it over with the delegation over the weekend. We'll decide for next Friday's podcast. But I would hope that he's playing. If he's not playing, then something very bad has happened here in the next couple of days.
Okay, well, good. So I'll go with Jalen Johnson then.
I think that's a good pick. I think my only hesitation with him was maybe he'll be on a snaps limit or something like that. But I was thinking about Jalen and I think he's going to make an impact right away. I think he's itching to get back out there after missing all training camp and missing that first game. So I think that he's ready to kind of prove, and he's been itching to play in this Dennis Allen defense. Like, he wants to prove that he can be a playmaker in this man-to-man coverage. So, and shadowing like the best wide receivers on opposing teams. So I like that pick.
Thank you. I just hope we have several candidates. Like, boy, this is a tough pick because there were so many good candidates, so many guys who had good games. Because after Monday night, that was tough, man. That may have been the hardest question I had all week. Who is the Bears MVP? Yeah. Because, like the positives, because no one really stood out. And my pick last week, DeAndre Swift, I told you, I watching the game live, I thought he was pretty good. I thought he ran hard, but then you look at his stats and they're very similar to last year when we all kind of agree he underachieved. Regardless of the offensive line woes last season. But they need him, and we haven't even talked about running back too, because they got to figure that out, because that's still a mess. Health wise, what do they think of Manungai? I mean, maybe that's a conversation for another time, but they got to figure that out too, because that's not just like oh, by the way. They need to figure that out, because as much as I love DJ Moore, I don't want him carrying the ball 3 or 4 times. If you want to do that once every other game or something, fine, get him the ball in his hands, but don't make this guy like he's getting 3 or 4 carries a game. That's not his game. You're doing him an injustice.
Yeah, Ben Johnson kind of took accountability for that during the week. He was kind of like, I need to call more plays. Like, I need to call more running plays. Like, him and Declan were kind of talking about how, they kind of got to go with the game. He kind of got away from that. And I think that, again, that's part of the learning for Ben Johnson of how does he manage the play calling in the moment on top of being a head coach, right? So maybe those are things that he kind of learns, and he's like, hey, Declan, where are we at with this? Like, it'll be interesting to see. I think you're definitely going to see more running the ball, and that's why Rick's pick looks pretty good. I was debating going with him. Rick is going with DeAndre Swift. I think again, for DeAndre Swift, it's a big game for him. Obviously, he's played Detroit with the Bears last year, so this isn't his first time playing his former team. But I'm sure there's some motivation, like the team that trades you away because they don't think that you're part of their future. Like, there's motivation with that. That stays with you, especially if you're an athlete. So I like that pick by Rick. CJ's got Colston Loveland getting his first touchdown and getting more involved. I can definitely see that. I think the tight ends are going to be much more involved in this game than they were in the first game. I think they'll still use Cole and Colston as protection, because you still have to stop Aiden Hutchinson and a lot of great guys on that defensive line for the Lions. And you're going to need that protection help. But I do think that they're going to use the tight ends a little bit more than they did in week 1. All right, Joe, what is your prediction? What is Sunday afternoon in Detroit, noon game at Fox at Ford Field? Ben Johnson goes back to Detroit for the first time. What happens Monday afternoon or Sunday afternoon?
Okay, I've already said the Bears will lose. I've already said the Bears will win. I said they will lose in print.
Heels. Which one are you going to go with?
So since this is the podcast, I guess I have to stick with the Bears will win, as crazy as that sounds. The score, boy, I'd love to see your shootout prediction. But I don't know if I want to go that high. So maybe I'll go 20, 21 to I don't know what I'm doing. 21-17. No, Kyler Santos is going to make a field goal. So what's the math there? 20, what's 21 plus 24? 24 to 20. I don't know. 24-20.
That sounds right. That's actually the same. That's the same point differential that I'm doing, but I have Detroit winning 28-24.
Okay.
I think that they're able to kind of pick it up there late.
You'll probably be right.
I don't know. Listen. We'll be talking on the podcast on Monday, and it turned out to be like a 10-7 game or something like that. And we're talking about Caleb and the offense struggling to kind of get it going there. But I thought this was a tough game at the beginning of when the schedule came out. I thought it was going to be their toughest game of the first four. You're going to Detroit. Detroit started the season 0-1. They're trying to be a Super Bowl contender here. Yeah. Like, they have a lot on the line. They got, I don't want to say humiliated, but it didn't look good against the Packers in week one, right? So I think there's a lot of pride with this team. I think that they're going to come out motivated. And I think it's a really tough spot for the Bears to be in while they're trying to figure things out. That's a tough environment to play in. There are going to be a lot of emotions in that game. So I do think that Detroit ends up winning that game. But I do think that you feel confident about what you see with Caleb, 24 points. I know that that's not a revolutionary in today's NFL, but I do think that it's going to look a lot more positive, and you're not going to have the boosted pick six like you did against the Vikings in week one.
Hope so. We got to see improvements. As they say, progress always isn't linear, but we need to see improvement, whether it's offense, defense, kicker, something. You gotta be better, because you will be 0-2
for sure. CJ chiming in, he's got the Bears winning 17-14. I wouldn't be surprised by that prediction. I don't know. Obviously, you're happy with the win and you get a couple of touchdowns. I don't know what the reaction would be with Caleb and that sort of stuff, but it's a win for the Bears, so I'm sure they'd be happy. All right, guys, get in any of your last questions, predictions. We're going to say goodbye, but Joe, any lasting thoughts before we say goodbye to the folks?
No, it's just fun to have a noon kickoff on Sunday. I've told you, this summer, like I just love, that's what the routine you're used to. Fall, noon, kickoff, football, leave me alone. I'm watching the game. That's what I look forward to the most, because to me, that's the NFL. I know how they got to do all the night games and Thursday and Sunday night and all. I get it. You're trying to make money as a league, but noon kickoff, love it. Let's go.
I particularly love it as a traveler, so I'm into that at all after that Monday night game. Mr. Shorty chiming in, 24-17 Lions. I could see that too. I think that would be good. But I think it'll be an interesting game. It's going to be an emotional game. It'll be I think we're going to learn a lot about this Bears team in this game. I think we've heard a lot of comments over the past week, all the right stuff. I'm really interested to see how they kind of respond, and that'll be really interesting to watch on Sunday. But that's everything that we've got for this week's episode of the podcast. Thank you so much. If you're joined us on YouTube, thanks so much for everyone who chimed in with their comments and their thoughts. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. That's the best way to support us and help our live stream grow. If you're listening to us on the podcast and you're like, man, I wish I could be part of the conversation, make sure you check out our social medias. We'll be sharing whenever we're doing our live stream. We try to do it Monday and Friday mornings for the most part. Obviously, things kind of change with travel and the Bears kind of shifting up their schedule, but we'll try to do it mostly on Monday mornings and Friday mornings. So make sure you join us on there if you want to be part of the live stream. And thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. Make sure you're following Joe at Joe Aguilar 64. He'll have Friday night football coverage for you tonight and everything else going in McHenry County sports. And I'll have your Bears coverage live from Detroit on Sunday. So make sure you follow me at all our social medias at Dwojak 94. All right, that's everything that we've got for this week's episode. Thanks so much for joining us, and hopefully you guys enjoy some football over the weekend, and we will talk to you folks down the road.